So I'd like to start by asking you about this vision that you have. You've now been president just a little under a year, from April 2018, and you came with this promise to your people, to your country, to invest in human capital. What does that mean?
Thank you very much. Sierra Leone is a small West African nation, and it is endowed with a lot of natural resources like diamond, gold, rutile, bauxite, you name it. We've been exploiting that for quite a while, but in terms of tangible things to show for that, we really don't have. So when I decided I was going to vie for the leadership of this country, having also benefited quite a lot from education, after our own social diagnosis of the situation, we decided as a group, with my leadership, that if we have to go forward as a nation, if we have to develop, which we need, and which our people are expectantly waiting for, we needed to pay attention to the human resource base of our country. We've not forgotten about the many resources that we have, the gold, the diamond, the rutile, the bauxite, and everything, but we want to see those as a means to develop our human capital. Why human capital? Because for me, I have experienced the power of education. I have lived through it, and I'm sitting here, I think, to a very great extent because of education. I come from a very humble background. My mom never went to school. She was not fortunate. My dad did, but he died before I started school. I came from a little village, not even from the city. But today, I'm sitting at the State House. I started school, and I was going to school without shoes. Today, I can wear a beautiful pair of shoes. And I want to... I believe in the march from my village to the State House, education played a dominant role. And because in Sierra Leone, a lot of people are dropping out of school. For a mere $20 a year to keep a kid in school, that is not something that I can be a silent witness to. So I decided that the most important resource in our country is the human being, and therefore we should enhance the quality of the human being, and the best way to invest in the human being is to give education.
And so, so the strategy, the vision is there. So for the implementation, as you said, there are financial challenges for the country. There are also financial challenges for families. How do you overcome these financial challenges in order to provide primary and secondary education for all of Sierra Leone's children and youth?
In fact, when I suggested that I was going to make education the flagship program for my government, and staked my whole campaign on that, the opposition and quite a lot of other people said, "You must be kidding." And they asked, "Where are you going to get the money? Do you even know how many kids are in school? It is impossible." But for me, quality education for our kids is an existential business in the 21st century. To be a meaningful part of the 21st century, you must have a solid education. Without that, you are going to be at the receiving end of globalization. And you all know you don't want to be at that end. So I decided that however expensive it was, I was going to make sure that we made it our flagship program. And it is our flagship program. As expensive as it is, within 5 months, I launched a program that paid for all the kids in Sierra Leone so that they can go to school. In addition, provided core textbooks and learning materials for teachers to be able to make education available for all kids in Sierra Leone. Now we are working on making the quality competitive so that our kids can go out in the world knowing that they are well educated and they have quality education and compete around the world.
You know, investing in education is one of those long-term investments. And so to actually see the fruits of the investments that you're making will take some time. So how do you, in the meantime, try to accelerate development in the country?
Well, national issues are never that simplistic as they seem. And in my opinion, the world is talking about, the UN and other international institutions are talking about sustainable development. Mm-hmm. Sustainable development goals they have established and trying to make sure we accomplish those. But from our own examination of our situation, which is very important, we realize that we cannot even embark on that process of development. So we don't even talk about sustainable. And to even embark on the development, which as you very well know is a very complex issue, those nations that are leading the world today are still developing. We decided that education is so important, however expensive it might be, we have to follow that. So some said, you don't have the money, and it is very expensive to embark on education as a project of a nation. There are other issues. But for me, like I've said before, it is an existential thing for us as a nation if we want to be a meaningful part of the 21st century. If we want our people to be involved in the process of development and to be part of it in a way that they can also be productive, there has to be quality education. Quality education gives them the tools and the means to be part of the process. You cannot embark on sustainable development without an educated community or country. Because even we who claim to be educated are still grappling with the many paradigms of development. We pick one today and drop it tomorrow, and another one crops up another day. So how do you expect a country with only 3 out of 5 adults, 3 out of 5 adults cannot read and write? So for me, I prioritized education. Not that I don't have the intention to develop other things. We are working on different aspects of state governance, but we are making education priority. And for me, I'm not looking at education from a narrow perspective. I consider education as holistic. And therefore, we actually said it's going to be human capital development. And that human capital development means we take care of the health of the human being, the food security for us all to have food, and also feed the brain. We feed the brain, the tummy, and take care of the body, and that person is good to go in the 21st century.
So, agriculture, health, and education, the 3 pillars. But really, to get either agriculture or health to be strong, you will need education. So that's become your cornerstone, the infrastructure from which you can build everything on. I want to ask you about technology. You've spoken at length about the importance of technology and the role that technology can play in developing not only the education sector, but the country at large. And some people will ask and say, well, there are many countries around the world that are competing to become technological hubs. What would make Sierra Leone stand out?
Well, in the first place, we are very serious about technology as part of the momentum to go forward as far as development is concerned. 2 weeks ago, I was at MIT and Harvard, and we went to establish partnership with those institutions to be able to leverage the connections so that we can actually use technology to deliver and to help us in the process of governance in Sierra Leone. Many countries, of course, every country is making an effort to lead. But we have not only given it priority because we know it will quicken our move to catch up with the rest of the world, but we also know it will make our processes of governance, taking care of health, taking care of education, taking care of governance itself, and simplify other processes of governance. So we are using it not only as a means to deliver education, but we have identified technology, science, and innovation as a way to catch up with the rest of the world. The quantum leap, that leapfrogging in development, is necessary if we have to catch up with the rest of the world. And only technology can help us do that. Also, of more importance as far as technology is concerned is the fact that teachers are a very important component of all of this equation. But it is not going to be easy to train teachers for nearly 2 million students. So we want to use the effect of technology, innovate around the processes that we've been using to deliver tuition, so that we can use technology and beam into our classes quality tuition to all the kids, even in the far to rich areas of our country. So that way we can quickly bring quality education to our people while we are making the effort. You can never do it, there's no substitute for good teachers, well-motivated teachers. So we want to use education, our technology. Why we think we have a smart set of people in our country. I've already put together a group of young people, and I don't know if my chief innovator is here. He's already, you can get up, let them see you. What we do is, every challenge we have, we throw it to them as a group of young people, and they innovate around that challenge, either using technology or science. And we've been able to find very interesting and refreshing solutions to certain perennial problems in Sierra Leone. So we have challenged them with that question. How can you make us lead the world in innovation? From one of the poorest countries, one country that has been completely tagged with the negative labels of war, Ebola, and all of these things. It's a new day in Sierra Leone, and we are up to the challenge, and we are working towards that. He leads a group of, he's himself an inventor from Harvard and MIT. It was extremely difficult to get him out from where he was, working with IBM. But that is how determined we are. We are getting all of them together. He's leading that group. And every challenge we have, we throw into their hands, and they've been able to innovate, find ways so that we can actually move forward as a nation.
This idea of tapping into diaspora, the idea of those who had left the country during a difficult period in the country's history and bringing them back. What is the pull factor to bring back talent to the country?
I think normally we talk about a buoyant economy, one that can provide jobs for them. Also improvement in other social amenities, because once you get used to the outside world, you want to be able to get to live happily. But it's extremely difficult in a third world where electricity is difficult, where water supply is difficult. Everything is difficult, actually. So we have to find ways to provide those amenities back home. But aside from that, for quite a lot of them, actually, in my government, we've had to bring the professor sitting, even my wife was in the diaspora. I had to...
That's one way to attract talent.
I normally forget. They come back with a lot of experience. The professor was a quintessential academic in some university deep in the UK. I had to bring him here also, because there is an intellectual aspect to visionary leadership. You can't take that out. Of course, there is a practical aspect to leadership, but it has to be informed. And that is why we are bringing the best brains. When they want to theorize, we change the theory into practice. We allow them to give us the theories, and we translate that into policies that positively impact. So the pool actually is, now I do get approaches quite often. People say we want to be part of this success story. So you have to be successful at home. You have to give hope. You have to inspire. And I met a colleague of ours, a Sierra Leonean, at the World Bank. He said, I want to come back. I said, but you are better paid here. He said, I want to be part of the success story. So everybody wants to be part of a success story. So you have to be successful, and then you can have that pull factor to get people coming back.
I want to go back to a point that you raised, which is the issue of adult illiteracy. Because of course, investing in education is very important, early development of children, primary education, secondary education, and so forth. But you also have a reality of those who need to get into jobs today and creating job opportunities for those who are adults. How do you deal with that? How do you go about ensuring that they have certain skill levels, even if it's not traditional education, and providing opportunities for them?
It's all part of this package. I came with my education minister. He was around this morning.
Somebody's probably pulled him into one of the many meetings that are
exactly.
ongoing.
What education for us is holistic. From numeracy to adult literacy, these are all things that are that form part of our program. We had an 11-year war in our country. We've had a series of situations that have deprived quite a lot of people from going to school. They will become, and they are already liability, if we do not give them the skills to self-employ and also to be useful to other people. So what we are doing is, when we talk about education, there's an whole aspect of skills training, which we give these people who are beyond the normal education age to acquire skills and knowledge that will make them productive. And those skills and knowledge definitely have to be part of what is useful today, not the old things that don't matter anymore. And numeracy, even for our the people in the villages, is important, because as we try to encourage them to move towards doing little businesses, especially to empower women, they have to know, they have to be literate in terms of their numeracy skills, so that they can comfortably take care of their businesses and take care of their families. So numeracy, adult literacy, and skills training form an important component of education. Of course, you have the traditional or the academic aspect, which is all there. So it is all of this that we put together in order to that we call education. We are not leaving any aspect. We believe that teachers are important in this, and the sort of education that we want to give is one that we make our people global nomads, people who can go into the world and be problem solvers, not just the traditional geography, history, and all of this sort of thing. We want to leapfrog even in terms of the quality and the type of education we are going to give, because we live today in a global world, highly interconnected. No problems are local today, and we have to make sure that our kids who live Sierra Leone can survive and thrive, not survive, can thrive anywhere else in the world.
Can I? You know, I'm originally from Iraq, and there are similarities somewhat between our countries in terms of having great resources, both natural resources and human capital, but have had difficult recent histories. And so one of the things I think about, and people who think about from countries that have gone through conflict, is how education can enable peace building and maintain peace and thrive, as you said. How do you see peace building, reconciliation in education?
As a peace student myself, most of the challenges we've had in the past that lead to violent conflicts is actually lack of proper knowledge. That is one. And also a lack of leadership, either at the world level or at home. In order to bring about peace, there's need to understand one another in any given set of communities. Dialogue is important. And if you are truly educated, you see the need for us to live in diversity, because we live in diversity today. And when you have useful education, it tells you you can live with anybody around the world. You can live in any society. You only have to be sensitive to what is happening around you. That you are not the same with the next person. You don't belong to the same religion like the next person. But that doesn't mean that you are totally different. There is a common trend. You are all human beings. Be you black, white, Arab, you are all human beings. So, and this was the type of education I was talking about, making our kids global nomads. To know that there is so much richness in diversity. We don't have to quarrel about diversity. And that when there are challenges, dialogue is the best way, because when we go into conflict, we dehumanize the others. But when you dialogue with people, you get to see where they are coming from, and that can resolve the issues. It is because we dehumanize, and the next thing will be definitely to get rid of the other person, because you think he or she is not in the same class or grouping that you think. So part of the education that we should have in today's world is one that has to respect diversity. We are all different, even from the same mothers. You can be different. If we can make peace education, as it has become a serious situation in the world, and because the boundaries don't exist anymore, we are going to move across boundaries. So we have to respect the culture of other people. If we can do that, it can help us to actually live in harmony. In terms of peace building, I think education definitely, in some of the cases, what has led to the violent conflicts, especially in Africa and other parts of the world, is the lack of opportunities, the lack of development itself. People have taken to the bush because there is development happening and they are not part of it. That is lack of inclusive development. People have taken to the bush because the leaders are too corrupt. Whatever belongs to the state belongs to their pocket. I think if we really organize our educational system in such a way to capture some of the challenges or the most critical challenges we are facing around the world, those issues should be part of our education, so that we will prevent conflicts that can lead to, the massacres that we have experienced in the world. So for me, education will help to stick to the people together and also help us to understand the needs of other people, knowing that they are totally different from who we are.
Thank you very much.